All right, language lovers. Ready to dive deep into some Spanish grammar?
Let's do it.
Today we're tackling those tricky verbs ser and estar.
Yes. The infamous to be verbs.
They both mean to be in English.
Right.
But trust me, there's a whole world of nuance in Spanish.
There is.
And today we're going to explore all of it.
So it's good.
So for any of you who have ever felt confused about when to use ser versus estar, this one's for you.
This is going to clear things up.
We're going to break down the rules.
Yes.
And help you finally feel confident using these verbs correctly.
That's the goal.
Our deep dive is based on a really cool Spanish learning video.
Oh, yeah. It's a good one.
Get this, it even explains how ser and estar can change how you describe someone's height.
Really? I'm intrigued.
I know, right? I was surprised too.
Let's get into it then.
So let's start with ser.
Okay.
This is like the verb of permanence.
The cornerstone of identity.
Exactly.
We use ser for qualities that are enduring.
Like unchanging. Okay, so give me an example.
Family relationships.
Okay.
Like somos hermanos.
Which means?
We are siblings.
Oh, okay.
It highlights that unbreakable bond.
Ah, so it's not just stating a fact.
Right.
It's about conveying something deeper about the relationship.
Exactly.
Oh.
And it goes beyond just family.
Okay.
It also applies to the inherent nature of things.
Oh, I see.
Like los elefantes son animales.
Elephants are animals.
Right.
That makes sense.
It illustrates a truth that's unlikely to change.
Okay, so we've got family relationships and the nature of things.
Yes.
What else falls under ser?
Well, think about time, dates, seasons.
Okay.
These are all fixed points.
Right.
They fit perfectly with ser.
So like son las 7 de la tarde.
Exactly. It's 7 p.m.
And es verano.
It is summer.
Got it.
So you can see ser is used for those things that structure our lives.
Like the timekeeper of our existence.
I like that.
But what about descriptions?
Okay.
Those can definitely change, right?
You'd think so.
Right.
But Spanish is interesting.
How so?
Even when you're describing characteristics.
Like size, personality, appearance.
Exactly. Spanish often leans towards ser.
Really?
Think about it. La casa es pequeña.
The house is small.
Right. Or Juana es simpático.
Juan is nice.
These are seen as pretty stable qualities.
Okay, but someone's personality could change.
Yeah, theoretically.
So you're saying even then Spanish would still use ser?
It's about capturing their essence at that moment in time.
Interesting.
And this applies to nationality and professions, too.
Okay, how so?
Yo soy español.
I am Spanish.
And Juan es médico.
Juan is a doctor.
These are considered defining parts of a person,
I see.
even though they could potentially change in the future.
It's like your profession becomes part of who you are.
Exactly. It shapes a sense of self that's deeply rooted in those qualities.
So ser isn't just about stating facts.
Yeah.
It's tied to how Spanish speakers view identity.
Absolutely.
Wow, this is fascinating.
Right. And there's even more.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ser is also used for events,
Events.
like la reunión es a las 6 de la tarde.
The meeting is at 5 p.m.
Exactly.
Okay, and what else?
Also for stating facts like prices and quantities.
Prices and quantities, like what?
Like el pescado es 12 euros.
Okay, the fish is 12 euros.
Sí.
So ser covers everything from timeless truths
Yes.
to the price of fish.
It does.
Okay, before we move on,
Sure.
anything else about ser?
Yeah, there are two more key uses to remember.
Okay, Amy.
First, ser, followed by de, indicates origin, material, or possession.
Okay, give me some examples.
Yo soy de Madrid.
I am from Madrid.
Or el vaso es de cristal.
The glass is made of glass.
Exactly.
So de adds a new layer of meaning to ser.
It does.
And the second key use,
Ser is also your go-to verb for identification and definition.
like pointing at something and saying,
¿Eso qué es? Esto es una bicicleta.
what's that? This is a bicycle.
Yep. Ser provides those clear definitions.
Okay, so ser is the master of permanence.
Absolutely.
It defines who we are, states undeniable facts,
Yes.
and everything in between.
Basically.
But now let's talk about estar.
Yes, the verb of change.
It captures those ever-changing moments of life.
Right, well, ser is about enduring qualities.
Estar focuses on the temporary.
Exactly.
I'm ready to see how this works.
Okay, let's imagine you're feeling tired.
Okay.
In Spanish, you'd say, yo estoy cansado,
Using estar,
to highlight that it's a temporary feeling.
not like a defining characteristic.
Right, it's just a snapshot of your current state.
It's a subtle difference, but I can see how it matters.
It does.
Okay, so what else does estar cover?
Location.
Location.
Even if something's permanently somewhere.
You still use estar.
You got it.
That's wild.
I know, right? It's one of those fascinating quirks of the language.
So give me an example.
La cafetería está en la esquina de mi calle.
The coffee shop is on the corner of my street.
But that coffee shop has probably been there for years.
It might have.
But we still use estar.
Location is always about estar.
Wow, okay, my mind is blown.
It's all about capturing that sense of being situated in a particular place at a particular time.
Okay, so we've got temporary states and location. What else uses estar?
Well, health and moods are constantly changing, right?
Right.
So we use estar for those too.
Like,
Mi padre está enfermo.
my father is sick.
And yo estoy alegre.
I am happy.
Exactly.
So estar is like the mood ring of Spanish verbs.
I like that.
It reflects those shifting emotional states.
I love that analogy.
And speaking of emotions,
Yes.
estar can also emphasize a feeling in a particular moment.
That's right.
Like if you're celebrating something special.
Like a new baby.
Exactly.
You could say, estamos muy felices con nuestro nuevo hijo.
We are very happy with our new son.
It highlights the intensity of your current joy.
That's a good tip.
Right.
Okay, anything else?
Yes. One of the most important uses of estar is to express actions in progress.
Oh, right. With those gerunds.
Exactly, those non-do and yendo endings.
I remember struggling with those.
Yeah, they can be tricky.
But you're saying estar is the key.
It is.
So like if you're asking someone what they're doing
Like, ¿qué haces?
and they're in the middle of searching for their dog,
They could respond with "Gad. Estamos buscando a nuestro perro."
we are looking for our dog.
Exactly.
So estar plus the gerund buscando creates that sense of an action in progress.
Precisely.
Wow, estar really does cover a lot.
It does.
Fleeting feelings, actions in progress, even location.
It's the verb of the here and now.
That's a good way to put it.
Right.
Okay, but now I have a feeling things are about to get even more interesting.
Oh, why is that?
Because I'm pretty sure there are times when both ser and estar can be used.
You are absolutely right.
And that's where things can get tricky.
It can be a bit of a gray area.
But also incredibly
Wow.
fascinating. So buckle up because we're about to explore those gray areas,
Where the two verbs overlap.
but with some subtle shifts in meaning.
It's all about those nuances.
I'm ready for the challenge. Bring it on.
All right, so let's start with height.
Height.
We know ser is often used for descriptions,
Right.
but when it comes to height,
Yeah.
both ser and estar can be used.
Really?
Yeah.
So they can actually change how you describe someone's height?
They can?
This is getting good.
I know, right?
Okay, so how does it work?
If you want to say someone is tall as a general characteristic,
Well, I'd use sir.
right, like yo soy alto.
Meaning, I am tall,
Exactly. But
There.
if you want to say someone is in a high position,
like on a ladder.
exactly.
Use a star.
Yes. Yo estoy alto would mean I am high up.
Wow, I never would have thought of that.
It's all about the context.
Right, whether you're talking about a permanent characteristic.
Or a temporary state.
Okay, so what's another example?
How about cleanliness?
Cleanliness. Okay.
Both verbs can be used.
But with different meanings.
Of course.
Okay, so break it down for me.
If you want to describe someone as a tidy person,
Okay.
you'd use ser,
Like, yo soy limpio.
which means
I am a clean person.
right.
But if you want to say someone is clean right now,
Like fresh out of the shower.
you'd use a star.
Exactly. You estoy limpio.
I'm clean right now.
You got it.
Okay, so I'm seeing the pattern here.
What is it?
It depends what you're trying to convey.
Exact.
Permanent trait or temporary state.
You got it.
But wait, there's more, right?
There is always more.
I knew it. I'm ready. What else is there?
Let's talk about dates and prices.
Gates and prices. Okay.
They require a little adjustment when you use a star instead of ser.
Oh, wait. I'm listening.
So when you're using ser to talk about dates,
Okay.
you'd say something like, Hoy es 27 de abril de 2020.
Today is April 27, 2020,
Right.
but with a star.
You need to add the preposition a.
The preposition a. Okay.
So it becomes, Estamos de 27 de abril de 2020.
We are on April 27, 2020.
We are on April 27, 2020. It's exactly.
Ah, so it's a subtle shift, but an important one.
It is. And what about prices?
Similar idea.
Okay.
With ser, you'd say, El precio de la sandía es de 20 euros.
The price of the watermelon is 20 euros.
But with a star,
You add a again?
you got it, and you replace de with a.
So it becomes,
La sandía está 20 euros.
the watermelon is at 20 euros.
Exactly.
So estar needs that preposition a to make it work.
It does.
Like a little bridge between the two verbs.
I like that.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap,
Sounds good.
just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Ser is the verb for all things permanent or long-lasting.
Right.
It covers inherent qualities, time dates, seasons, descriptions,
Yes.
nationalities, professions, possessions,
Keep going.
and even the location of events.
Good.
It's also our go-to verb for stating facts and figures,
Right.
talking about origins and materials with de, and for defining and identifying things.
You got it.
And then we have estar.
The verb of change, which captures those ever-changing aspects of life.
Yes.
We use it for those changing states and conditions, locations, health, mood,
Keep going.
and even to emphasize a particular moment or feeling.
Good.
And it's also the key to expressing actions and progress with those gerunds.
You nailed it.
And of course, let's not forget those tricky situations.
Where both verbs can be used.
Exactly, like with height or cleanliness.
It all comes down to whether we're focusing on a permanent characteristic.
Or a temporary state.
You got it.
And we also learned how to make those subtle shifts in meaning work.
By using prepositions like a.
Right.
I think we covered a lot of ground today.
We did, and I feel like I've gained a much deeper understanding of Ser and Estar.
Me too. And you know what?
Blew it.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question to ponder.
Okay, I'm ready. Emmy.
We talked about how Ser and Estar affect how we describe things and situations. But how might these two verbs influence our understanding of abstract concepts, like love, happiness, or even time itself?
That's a really interesting question.
It is, isn't it?
Like, is love a permanent state of being or a fleeting emotion?
Exactly.
And how does our perception of time as linear or cyclical influence our choice of verbs?
It makes you think.
It does. It really does.
So I'll let you ponder those questions.
While we move on to the next part of our Ser and Estar adventure.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our Ser and Estar deep dive. I hope you've had a chance to think about those questions about abstract concepts.
Oh, I definitely have. It's amazing how these two verbs can spark such profound thoughts.
Right.
But for now, I think I'm ready to get back to the grammar.
Sounds good.
We've covered the core uses,
Yeah.
but the video also mentioned something about interrogative and negative forms.
Yes. Let's explore how we ask questions and express negations.
And don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds.
It's actually pretty straightforward.
That's a relief because sometimes Spanish grammar can feel like a maze.
I know what you mean.
So let's start with questions using ser.
Okay.
How does that work?
You simply place ser before the subject.
Before the subject.
Yep. Which is the opposite of a statement.
Okay, give me an example.
If you want to ask where Paco is from,
Okay.
you'd say, ¿De dónde es Paco?
So the verb es comes before Paco.
Exactly.
It's like flipping the sentence structure.
It is.
What about a more complex question?
Like if someone's friends with Catalina,
Yeah?
you would say, ¿Eres amigo de Catalina?
Again, eres before the subject too?
You got it.
And for a basic question like, what's that?
It would be, ¿Qué es eso?
Okay, I think I'm getting the hang of this.
You are. But the video mentions some flexibility with word order.
Oh, really? Like what?
Sometimes you can put ser at the end of the sentence,
At the end.
after the subject.
So for the Paco question, you could say.
Paco, ¿de dónde es?
It sounds more informal that way.
It does.
But are there times when you have to stick with ser before the subject?
Yes, certain sentence structures require it.
Okay, like what?
That question about being friends with Catalina.
Eres amigo de Carolina.
You can't say amigo de Catalina eres.
It sounds weird.
Exactly. It's unnatural.
So it's good to pay attention to how native speakers do it.
Absolutely. Immerse yourself in the language.
Okay, so that's questions with ser.
Mm-hmm.
What about negations?
Those are even easier.
Music to my ears. I'm always happy when Spanish grammar is simple.
Me too.
So how do we make ser negative?
Just put no in front of the verb.
Just no.
That's it.
So to say you're not from Portugal,
You'd say, tú no eres de Portugal. Easy peasy.
and it's the same with the star.
Really? So just no before the verb?
Yep. Like, yo no estoy en el bar.
I'm not at the bar.
Or yo no estoy alegre.
I'm not happy.
You got it. So negations are consistent with both verbs.
Thankfully, yes.
Before we move on to questions with a star, I just want to double check
Sure.
whether it's a statement, a question, or a negation with ser. The conjugation doesn't change right.
You are absolutely right.
It's all about word order and adding no.
Exactly.
That makes things a lot easier.
It does.
Okay, I'm ready to tackle questions with a star.
All right. Bring it on.
How does it work?
It follows a similar pattern to ser.
Okay.
You usually put the verb before the subject.
Okay, so give me an example.
If you want to ask where your mother is,
Okay.
you'd say, ¿Dónde está tu madre?
So esta comes before tu madre.
Exactly.
Are there any exceptions to this rule?
Well, just like with ser, you can sometimes switch it up.
Okay. How so?
You could also ask, tu madre, ¿dónde está?
Putting the subject first.
And the verb at the end.
So again, there's room for variation.
There is, but be careful.
Because?
Some structures require the verb before the subject.
Like what?
If you want to ask if someone is in Madrid,
Okay.
you'd say, ¿estáis en Madrid?
Using vosotros for a group?
Right. You can't say en Madrid estáis.
It sounds strange.
It does.
So again, it's about paying attention to native speakers.
And immersing yourself in the language.
Okay, so we've covered questions and negations with both ser and estar.
We have. How are you feeling?
To be honest, I'm feeling pretty good.
Good.
I think breaking down these grammar rules into smaller chunks really helps.
It does. It makes it less overwhelming.
And seeing real-world examples is key.
Absolutely. That's how we learn.
But before we move on to the final part of our deep dive,
Yes.
I want to revisit those thought-provoking questions we talked about earlier.
They're the ones about abstract concepts.
Exactly.
I'm glad you brought that up.
It's important to remember that language is more than just rules.
It is. It reflects how we think and see the world.
So let's go back to those deeper questions.
Okay.
How might ser and estar shape our understanding of ideas like love, happiness, and time?
Well, let's start with love.
Okay.
Is it a permanent state of being like Ser suggests?
Or a more fluid emotion like a star?
Exactly.
And what about happiness?
Is it a part of who we are or a temporary feeling?
And how does our perception of time influence our choice of verbs?
It's fascinating to think about.
It really is. These verbs make us see the world in a new light.
They do.
And I think those are perfect questions to leave our listeners with.
As we move on to the final part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, language lovers. There's still more to uncover. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into ser and estar.
It's been quite a journey exploring these two tricky verbs.
It has. We've covered a lot of ground, but before we wrap up, I remember there was one more interesting point in that Spanish learning video.
Oh, yeah. It mentioned how sometimes both verbs can actually have the same meaning.
Really? But you need to restructure the sentence a bit.
Exactly. It's like a little grammar puzzle.
I remember finding this so confusing.
I know what you mean.
Like when talking about dates or prices, I could never quite figure out how to make estar work.
The key is to remember that estar sometimes needs a little help from the preposition a.
Ah, the preposition a. Okay.
So, for example, with dates, instead of saying, hoy is 27 de abril de 2020, using ser, you would say, estamos a 27 de abril de 2020, using estar.
So you just add the a before the date.
Exactly. It's a small change, but it makes all the difference.
It's like estar is saying, hey, I can handle dates too, but I need that a to back me up.
Exactly.
And is it the same with prices?
It is. With ser, you would say, el precio de la sandía es de 20 euros.
Okay, but with estar.
You would say, la sandía está a 20 euros.
So again, you replace de with a.
You got it.
It seems like prepositions are super important for understanding the nuances of ser and estar.
They really are. They help us navigate those subtle differences.
Well, I have to say this deep dive has been incredible.
I agree.
I feel like I finally unlocked the secrets of ser and estar.
We've explored the rules, the nuances, the exceptions, even the philosophical side of these verbs.
It's been a truly fascinating journey.
And remember, mastering ser and estar is about more than just grammar.
It's about connecting with Spanish culture and thought on a deeper level.
Exactly. So listeners, keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep those Spanish conversations flowing.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of the learning process.
Embrace the challenge, have fun, and before you know it, ser and estar will become second nature.
We hope this deep dive has given you the confidence to use these verbs correctly.
And who knows, maybe you'll even see the world a little differently thanks to ser and estar.
Until next time, hasta luego.
Adios.